Hello, everyone. Welcome to Celsius 233, your go-to place for fiction book summaries. Today we will journey through The Idiot by Fyodor Dostoevsky. The Idiot, written by Fyodor Dostoevsky and first published in 1868, is a profound exploration of the human condition through the story of Prince Lev Nikolayevich Myshkin, a young man whose pure-hearted innocence and integrity stand in stark contrast to the society around him. Set in 19th century Russia, the novel delves into themes of morality, love, and the nature of goodness, all while critiquing the social mores of Dostoevsky's time. The novel opens with Myshkin returning to Russia after years of treatment in a Swiss sanatorium for his epilepsy and supposed idiocy. Plot summary. In the cold dawn of a Petersburg morning, a train carried into the city a strange passenger, Prince Lev Nikolayevich Myshkin, pale, disheveled, wrapped in an ill-suited cloak, and burdened with little more than a threadbare bundle. He had returned from a Swiss sanatorium where he had spent years in treatment for epilepsy, a man cleansed by suffering and untouched by the vanity and calculations that marked the world he re-entered. In the carriage opposite him sat Parfyan Rogozhin, dark-eyed, feverish, possessed by passion and newly enriched by his father's death. Rogozhin spoke with wild excitement about a woman named Nastasia Filipovna, a woman of fierce beauty and tragic disgrace. At once, an inexplicable connection bloomed between the two men, so unlike in spirit, but fated to be entangled by the same woman. Arriving in Petersburg, Myshkin sought out distant relatives, the Epanchin family, and was received with confusion and amusement. General Epanchin, an ambitious man of bureaucratic influence, and his proud wife Elizabetha Prokofievna had 3 daughters. The youngest, Aglaya, striking in beauty and sharp of tongue, soon caught the prince's attention. The household regarded Myshkin with curiosity, for he spoke with startling honesty, treated all with the same gentle respect, and seemed untouched by pride or self-interest. His innocence unsettled them, for in his gaze lay a mirror that exposed vanity, deceit, and the hollow rituals of society. Meanwhile, Rogozhin pursued Nastasia with a fervor bordering on madness. She had been the ward and mistress of the wealthy Totsky, used and discarded, her reputation forever tainted in the eyes of the world. Yet her allure remained undiminished, her defiance smoldering beneath layers of self-loathing. Rogozhin, driven by desire and obsession, offered her marriage and riches, while society whispered and leered, ready to witness her fall or redemption. At a gathering in her honor on the occasion of her name day, Nastasia tested the limits of propriety, flinging provocations and derision like daggers. Myshkin, present among the crowd, watched with sorrow, seeing not a fallen woman but a soul trapped in suffering. When she mockingly offered herself to Ganya Ivolgin, a man torn between ambition and contempt, Myshkin stepped forward and asked her to be his wife, not out of pity, but from a recognition of her humanity. For a moment, the crowd was stunned into silence. Nastasia laughed. Then she wept. Torn between the prince's quiet compassion and Rogozhin's consuming fire, she fled with Rogozhin, abandoning the prospect of peace for the thrill of self-destruction. Myshkin, left behind, was drawn further into the Epanchin family circle. Aglaya, intrigued by his strangeness, alternated between mocking and admiring him. In him she saw something otherworldly, perhaps even holy, yet she could not comprehend the depth of his love, a love that asked for nothing, that sought to heal rather than possess. The social elite, meanwhile, watched with amusement and suspicion, branding him an idiot, unable to grasp his uncalculated decency. Time passed and fate turned once more. Nastasia, restless and guilt-ridden, returned to Petersburg, tormented by dreams of redemption. She still burned for Myshkin, but believed herself unworthy. Rogozhin, consumed by jealousy, trailed her every move like a shadow. The prince found himself caught between 2 women, one who could not accept his love, the other who could not understand it. At a moment of reconciliation, Aglaya and the prince were nearly engaged. The Epanchins dared to hope that their daughter might be tamed by the presence of this saintly fool. But Aglaya, proud and spirited, soon discovered that her rival still held a sacred place in Myshkin's heart. In a bitter confrontation between the 2 women, Aglaya demanded that he choose. Myshkin, shaken and sorrowful, spoke not with passion but with truth. He could not abandon Nastasia. Aglaya, humiliated and furious, severed all ties. Myshkin prepared once more to marry Nastasia. She had begged him to take her away to save her from herself. He agreed. Guests assembled for the wedding. She appeared in a white dress, trembling, radiant. But as the moment drew near, she faltered. In the eyes of the crowd, she saw judgment and condemnation. In Rogojin's presence, she saw madness, but also the reflection of her own guilt. And so, in a final act of defiance and despair, she ran from the altar and into Rogojin's arms once more. The prince followed them to Rogojin's darkened house. He knew, as if through prophecy, that death awaited him there. He entered in silence and found Nastasia dead, her body laid out like a bride's. Rogojin sat beside her, his eyes hollow, his soul extinguished. He had killed her, not in rage, but in a twisted act of possession. Myshkin, instead of recoiling, sat beside him, took his hand, and stayed through the night. They spoke little, only stared at her face and waited for dawn. What followed was silence. Rogojin was imprisoned. Aglaya fled abroad, married a foreigner, and was lost to the world that once speculated upon her future. The Epinchins buried their pride and sorrow. Myshkin, gentle and broken, returned to the sanatorium in Switzerland, his mind unraveled, his soul still clinging to a vision of grace in a world that had no place for it. And thus, the prince who brought light into the hearts of the damned vanished quietly into shadow, leaving behind only the memory of a man who loved without desire, forgave without condition, and bore the cruelty of life with the serenity of one touched by divinity. That's it for today, but if you're looking for more great reads, dive into other books by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Details are in the description or on Celsius 233. Remember, while our summaries capture the essence, they can never replace the full experience of reading the book. If this summary intrigued you, consider diving into the complete story, buy the book, and immerse yourself in Fyodor Dostoevsky's original work. Bye-bye, take care, have fun.